1901, Ladies' Home Journal began publishing a series of designs by Frank Lloyd Wright. This trend of publishing design images continues, and today we are completely immersed in a world of virtual design education. In fact, what's happening today that's very interesting is that professionals are actually referring to design blogs that have been written by amateurs. But what we're actually going to end up doing is, I think that the problem is actually that we are all focused on the container and not on the spaces that those containers that involve human occupation. It's really, we keep focusing on the architectural story and not on the human story. And what I'm going to do in this talk is I'm actually going to go through 4 techniques that will help you to both create and implement that human story. The first technique is space. We've all been in spaces that feel right. The size and shape feel right. And what's interesting, this is actually a drawing of a person in a space. It is one person in that space with a low ceiling. When I replace that one person with a crowd, the ceiling feels low. When I raise the ceiling on the crowd, the ceiling feels fine. When I raise it on the individual, then that person feels small or low. And so the size and shape of the space actually is directly corresponding to the human occupation that's happening in that space. And we can have a lot of different variations. What's important is that the space is actually shaped in a way that supports the human experience. This is something that I do in my own work. I'm very interested in manipulating the ceiling plane in order to support a feeling of solitude, of connection, of intimacy. And I think this is so important. If you want to look at history, cathedrals actually developed over time in response to structural innovation, but the early church was developing their rituals at the same time. And so those rituals were changing as the shape of the space changed. And some of those rituals are still in use today. So priests walk up the center aisle now because there actually existed a center aisle then. We shape space, and then subsequently it shapes us. The second technique is movement, and we've all been in buildings where this technique was used so poorly that no amount of "you are here" signs will actually orient you to where you are. It is not your fault, it's the building. The ABCs of architectural movement are actually really quite simple. 1 column creates a focal point and will draw you towards it. 2 columns create a gate. It will make a point in space that you will naturally move through. 4 columns create a virtual room and a point of pause. A series of columns create a regular series of movement. We can use these elements. This is a home that I designed that has a back door. Everybody came to the back door, not the front door. And so I added a series of architectural elements to address that movement situation. And I won't go into all the details, but the planter, the way the columns connect to the ceiling, the focal wall at the end, each of these is a specific designed element that creates movement. And the idea is that movement can be designed directly and not just be a byproduct of a series of other decisions. The third technique is deep function. This is actually this is the idea of taking yourself step by step. Can I open this door with a baby on my hip and a briefcase over my shoulder, and can I put my stuff down when I get in, and can I reach the light switch? These are 3 kitchens that were actually designed in response to deep function. So the kitchen on your left is actually a place where the owner actually liked to visit with guests while she was finishing up cooking. So the stove and the stools are actually in the living room. The rest of the kitchen is hidden. The one on the top right is actually a foodie who actually liked to do tastings paired with the perfect wine, so it looks like a sushi bar. The one on the bottom is actually a kitchen that was designed as a spec product. So we actually made up a story for a potential buyer that actually fit the space and fit the building, and then designed to that story. The last technique is actually the idea that there are visual triggers that actually will tell you about the space, and set designers actually know this. So the set designers for Lucy actually tell you something about her and her family's aspirations by the decor of her apartment. This is a technique that I used in this project. If you notice the lunchroom on the upper left, I pulled this image off of Google, this is the kind of lunchroom that encourages you to either leave the office for lunch or eat at your desk. If it's true that one of the #1 reasons that people stay at a job is because they can make friends, then this is a missed opportunity. So we can actually design a lunchroom that looks like the kind of place that you can make friends. This is a slide of a project that was published, but this slide was not published. This is a slide that talks about the human story, the life of the people that actually live in this space. And what I want to actually encourage each of you to do as you go back into your environments is if there is something in your home life or your work life and you are not happy with the experience, I want you to really think about the story that you want to have happen there. And then think about how each of these 4 techniques could actually help you in your own home life and space, architect or not. Then what I want you to do is do not go by that cool-looking chair thinking one more object is going to solve your problem. I want you to stop and design the story. Thank you.